Hey guys, it's Luke Tabor, and this is a quick traditional archery tip. And if you struggle with release and follow through, just hang out for a couple minutes and watch this. I guarantee you that you're going to get something out of it. So follow through is so heavily ingrained in us. It's hammered into us in the traditional archery community and coaching, and it is very, very important. However, there's a very distinct thing that you have to be aware of, and that is not to obsess over the follow through position and let it take precedence over releasing at anchor. Now, you may not even realize that you're doing this, because I didn't realize that I was doing it for 20 years. I grew up being really dialed into me to come back and touch your shoulder, come back and touch your shoulder, never stop pulling. And so what would end up happening is that instead of hitting my anchor point here, releasing at anchor, and then allowing my follow through to be a byproduct of proper back tension and doing everything else correctly, with stiff fingers, I was not relaxing, and you just can't time it perfectly. And I was actually manually, here, I'll turn my hand so you can see my fingers are tense. And I'm at anchor. I was manually yanking back instead of being here, releasing, and then letting the follow through be a byproduct of doing everything else correctly. And what that causes is that if you're here shooting and you've got your bow arm up and you're at anchor here, and if you don't release at anchor and you start yanking through the shot, what happens is you'll turn your whole shoulders and you'll end up shooting towards the collapse side of the bow. Opposite of the shelf, you'll end up shooting towards that side, and then you'll drive yourself nuts because you're like, man, I'm pushing, I've got a strong bow arm. Why am I shooting towards the collapse side? I know I'm not collapsing. And so it took me a while to really dive in and figure out that it was because I wasn't releasing in the same spot, being consistent every single time. I was making such an effort to pull through the shot and such an effort to have a follow through that I was actually ending up yanking through. And so what I want you to do is not think so much about the follow-through position. It's very important. However, you cannot look at somebody shoot. A coach can't look at somebody shoot and know whether or not that they have correct back tension, that they have correct tension following in the correct direction, unless that person has worked on releasing at anchor. Now, as common knowledge as this sounds, I struggled with it. I know a lot of other folks struggle with it, and I have yet to see a single YouTube video that really deep dives into this, over obsessing on the follow-through position. Even as much respect as I have for Jake Kaminsky, love that dude. He has helped me with so much understanding the physiology of how the body works and the follow-through and all the mechanics, and focusing on the movement rather than the muscle. And in one of his videos, he talks about really focusing on your in positions. Now, while I agree with that, and knowing that those in positions are important, you don't want to be stagnant in your release. I think that beginning shooters, people who start shooting young, or just people who start beginning shooting at all, can kind of misconstrue that as not releasing at anchor. Not trying to pause too much here, but I really want to communicate this properly to you guys. So let's talk about that one more time, and then I'm going to wrap this up. So what I was doing is, like, I'm here, I'm at anchor, and I need to release here. I need to relax my hand here and follow through so that it's consistent every single time. I'm focused on staying on my anchor point. But instead, what I was doing is here, stiff fingers, follow through, and somewhere in here it breaks, and then I end up twisting my whole shoulders, and I'm just like, man, that didn't feel smooth at all. And did that for years and years and years. And so I really have such a passion now from somebody who has struggled for so many years and, grew up being coached by somebody who was a local, state, national, and world championship, got invited to try out for the Olympics, shot more birds out of the air than anybody in recorded history. And even he looked at me last year and said, he had such great coaches and he never struggled with any of this stuff. He didn't have the tools to even look at me and go, yeah, I understand what you're struggling with, Now, I really understand what it's like to struggle and fight through it for 2 decades and starting to come out on the back end of this stuff to really get it figured out. So here's an exercise that I want you to do, is get up on the blind bail, and when you go to shoot, focus on your anchor point. And the first few times that you do this, if you're a person that struggles on yanking through the shot, plucking through the shot, you're going to find that you might have a little bit of a tick to want to, I'm going to exaggerate this, But here, and as you go to release, you're actually pulling past your face, which is essentially just kind of a pluck. You're pulling away from your face. And you'll find that if you start focusing on staying on your anchor point during the shot, that your fingertips actually start kind of almost digging into your face a little bit more. It's a very slight difference, but I promise you, you'll pick up on it. So my whole main goal in my shot process is I don't want to think about my follow through at all. I know that my follow through is good. If I'm on the blind bail, I film myself, I get coaches to look at it, and my follow through is good because my body mechanics are correct. I have tension going in the right direction with my back tension and my back muscles. So now that I can focus on staying on my anchor point, if my hand ever doesn't move, I can look at myself and go, okay, I didn't engage my back muscles that time at all. You can start, really being able to decipher where you're going wrong. But if you're manually ripping your hand back into a follow through position, just to tell yourself, I have a good follow-through, that's not the case at all. The follow-through is a byproduct of doing everything else right. And so in that case, we don't want to focus on the follow-through. We want to focus on doing everything right that leads to the follow-through. So get up on the blind bail, go to shoot, and when you shoot, focus on keeping your hand on your anchor point when you let go of the string. Now, whatever happens after that, none of your business, not your job. You want to pay attention to whether or not it's going back in a linear motion, but don't obsess over it. Don't get up there to shoot, and when you go to release, go, and yank your hand back. It's just not what you want. A lot of guys are doing it. Trust me, I know a lot of guys have to be doing it because I was doing it for 20 years and still shooting, decently high scores, but more times than not, it turns into a nerves thing. Instead of running that shot smoothly, you end up kind of, jerking through it. So encourage you guys to try that out. Get up on the blind bail and start running a lot of shots like that. It's taken me hundreds and hundreds of blind bails to start breaking this habit, and I'm going to run thousands more just to ensure that I never do it again. What I find now is that instead of focusing so much on the follow-through position, now I really am focused on just boom, lock into that anchor point. That's my whole job. That's the end of it. I don't have to worry about anything else. Lock into my anchor point, boom, let go of the string, and then whatever happens after that, while we do want to pay attention to it, we don't want to obsess over it. So get on the blind bail, try that out, fix your bad habits, and if you like this, subscribe. Shoot me a message anytime, y'all. Like I wish that I had had somebody over the past 20 years that has struggled as much as I have to be able to put things into terms to help other people that are struggling, understand it, to help me that was struggling understand it. It's been a hard journey, a lot of blind bails. a lot of nights out at 1 o'clock in the morning, shooting on the blind bail. And so I really have a passion and want nothing more than to help other people that are, struggling in their traditional archery struggle. And a lot of the things I'm probably going to refer you to people like Jake Kaminsky or Tom Klum if we start really talking about the physiology and the scapulas and the shoulder blades and stuff. But as far as the shot process and things like this, I can really talk about where I struggled and things that I did wrong and to help you overcome those things as well. So again, I'm Luke Tabor. This is the Luke Tabor Experience, and I'll see you guys next time.